Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metropolis Radio, and today we are continuing our Marvel news with this article right here. Is Marvel's Shang Chi going to Disney Plus? It's still possible Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings will be released at cinemas and on Disney Plus, but Kevin Feige seems opposed to it. See, guys, I told you we were gonna get the Shang Chi in the prior video, but I didn't want to get a little ahead of myself then. So let's get into this. Is Marvel's Shang Chi going to Disney Plus? It's still possible Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings will wind up on the Disney Plus streaming service, but not if Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige has anything to do with it. The coronavirus pandemic has accelerated a change in popular culture, with movies released simultaneously in theaters and on streaming services. But the jury's still out as to whether or not this approach should be considered a financial success, but at present it may well be the only reliable way for studios to continue putting out content. That I don't disagree with. And like I said, guys, I have made a bunch of videos already talking about, box office and simultaneous releases on streaming services. So I'm not going to really retread over old ground here. Disney has been taking advantage of the Disney Plus streaming service, establishing a hybrid model where subscribers can purchase the film for an additional fee while others go to the cinema. And one of the big problems with that approach is, I don't know if they're doing this now, but I remember when Mulan released on Disney Plus Premier Access, there's no way for you to connect your Movies Anywhere account. So when it becomes available for digital purchase, the movie doesn't transfer over. So if you want to buy the movie on Movies Anywhere, you basically have to buy the same movie twice. And I think that's why that Premier Access is not going to be as successful as Disney thinks it's going to be. Marvel's Black Widow was probably the most high-profile blockbuster to get the hybrid treatment to date, with Disney announcing the so-called quote-unquote Premier Access netted Black Widow over $60 million in its opening weekend. It's possible Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, scheduled for release on September 3rd, will also have a hybrid release. Certainly that's indicated by the trailers, which have conspicuously avoided using the phrase "only in cinemas." But this shouldn't be taken as read. Disney only settled on a hybrid release for Black Widow fairly late in the day, after months of speculation, and they are believed to have been held up by the opposition of Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige. There have been consistent reports Feige was angered by Black Widow's Disney Plus release, likely in large part because of his emotional attachment to the big screen. In interviews, Feige has even explained his love of cinema inspired Marvel's post-credit scenes. Quote, "I didn't want the experience, no matter how good or bad the movie was, just the experience of being in the movie theater. I didn't want to end," end quote, he recalled. It's reasonable to assume Feige would consider a small screen to be a poor substitute for watching the movie in a theater. Again, that is a matter for debate, and that's really just, it comes down largely to personal preference at that point. Matters have been further complicated by Scarlett Johansson's lawsuit over Black Widow's hybrid release. If Disney do opt for a hybrid release for Shang-Chi, then there will be intense pressure to renegotiate contracts, not least because Feige himself is reportedly frustrated over how his stars were treated with Black Widow. Doing so could have significant repercussions for Disney, though, because Johansson's lawyers could argue such renegotiations amounted to a tacit admission Disney knew their old contracts weren't suitable for this changed distribution pattern. And here is where Disney has absolutely fucked themselves. They are now truly stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's either release in theaters only and have your first box office bomb, or do the hybrid release and give Scarlett Johansson's legal team even more ammunition to use against you in the current civil suit. So it's really pick your fucking poison. Either way, Disney does not walk away unscathed. Meanwhile, it's worth noting that official statements to the contrary, Disney probably still isn't sure whether the hybrid distribution model is paying off. Black Widow's box office dropped by a shocking 69% in its second weekend, with both streaming and pirating believing to have eaten into its takings. Again, piracy that's a matter for debate, and that's neither here nor there right now, because we can't really truly measure how damaged that the piracy of Black Widow has really cost to its earnings. Anyone who says that they can oh, the movie was illegally downloaded 3 million times. That's 3 million ticket sales that we lost out on. Bullshit. Making matters worse, the pandemic is far from over, and it's difficult to predict how films will be performing in September, in both domestic and overseas markets. According to Inside the Magic, Disney execs are still considering a simultaneous theatrical and streaming release for Shang-Chi, but they're facing fierce opposition from Feige. It's likely a final decision on Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is still a couple weeks away. And like I said, guys, Disney is put really between a rock and a hard place because I know that Shang-Chi originally was going to be only released in theaters, but you have Black Widow underperforming, and recently the Suicide Squad has underperformed, and now you add in the Scarlett Johansson lawsuit into that, and now you really have a real recipe for disaster. Disney has a real no-win game on their hands. You know, they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. And guys, I'm going to go ahead and end it right here. Because I think I've gone on for as long as I need to go. If you stuck around this long, thanks so much for doing so. And if you've been following me for long enough, you know I'm terrible at ending these, and I will just see you guys next time.